Hello everyone, it's your friendly neighbourhood Jedi, Mary, and I'm going to be talking about something slightly serious today. Most of you are probably aware that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and if you weren't, then you are now. If you guys have me over on the likes of Tumblr and Twitter, then you probably know that I have mental health issues myself. If you have watched my 50 Facts About Me video, which I will link in the description box, then you will also know that I suffer from psychotic depression. And I am planning on talking about mainly that in this video. I am also going to do another video though, where I talk about mental health related to deafness, but that will be next week. For today, I'm just going to be kind of explaining and sharing my experiences with psychotic depression, because I feel like it's something that not many people know about. It's not widely talked about, like depression and bipolar and, you know, those kind of mental health issues. They're talked about a lot more than psychotic depression is, and I think it's because psychotic depression is something that's quite difficult to speak about. At least for me it is. I was diagnosed with psychotic depression about 2 or 3 years ago now. Before that I did have depression, and I did have hallucinations and paranoia and delusions and all the kind of stuff that is related to psychotic depression, but I kind of kept it to myself. I felt like that made me seem like I had no control over myself, and I didn't want to appear that way to anybody, so I didn't tell anybody that I was having these symptoms. But it eventually all came to a head because I had like a big breakdown, and I was like, I don't even know how to describe it. I was just not myself at all. I was like, I felt like I was there, but I was also here, like looking at myself, and I was, it's like it was like a kind of out of body thing. I couldn't make my brain do what I wanted it to do, and I couldn't say what I wanted to say and act how I wanted to act. It was like I had zero control over myself, and obviously my husband was worried and my family was worried, so I went to the doctors and I told them the truth, and I went back to the psychiatrist, and then the psychiatrist diagnosed me with psychotic depression. As I said in my 50 Facts About Me video, psychotic depression is the same illness that Effie and Skins had. A lot of people say this when I tell them that I have psychotic depression, and they're like, oh, Effie, like Effie's Dunham, and I'm like, to an extent, yeah. I will say that I do think it's very well, what's the word, portrayed, very well portrayed in Skins by Effie, but there's a lot more to it than you will be able to put into a TV show, I think. So I'm going to start with the kind of delusions, like, and hallucinations. When I was growing up, I could always hear voices, and I probably mentioned it to my mum once or twice, and, you know, because I was young and I had imaginary friends and all that, she probably just assumed that it was like an imaginary friend kind of situation. But as I got older, I kept hearing these voices, and then I realised, like, that's not normal. So I didn't tell anybody about it. I was like, I'm not going to speak to anybody about this. I don't want people thinking that I'm not normal. I've already got, like, the fact that I'm deaf working against me. I don't really want to be, like, going up to people and going, I'm deaf and I hear things that aren't there. So it was very much hidden because I was very insecure and very, like, worried about what kind of things I put out there, like how I presented myself to other people. So I kept it undercover, and then as I got a little bit more older, I started seeing things as well, and I became convinced for a while that I could see ghosts. Complete delusion, by the way. This, look, I can't see ghosts. That would be freaking awesome, but I can't. this is a tricky conversation. Basically, I would be like seeing people that weren't there. After my great uncle died, I saw him quite a lot. I saw slightly more terrifying things like demons and like goblin type things. I don't really know how to describe them. They were like basically like the horrible creatures that you see in your nightmares. I was seeing them like sitting on my living room sofa or making food in my kitchen and stuff. That's basically what was happening. And they would talk to me and they would kind of, they would put me down a lot, but they would also manipulate me, and I became really, really, really scared about what I was going to do because I started listening to these people. At one point I walked out in front of a car because one of the demon things in my head convinced me that it was the right thing to do. Thankfully the driver slammed on the brakes. I got a huge earful from this guy because obviously he was like, what the fuck are you doing walking out into the middle of the road, you complete lunatic? There's cars coming, look where you're going. Which, fair enough. And obviously I wasn't going to stand there and go, so the demon in my head told me to do it. But that happened and I became kind of scared of leaving the house for a while because I was like, oh my god, if they can convince me to do this kind of stuff, then I'm not safe. Like, I wasn't really safe in the house either. There was plenty of times where I had to stop myself from picking up a knife in my kitchen and stabbing myself because the voices in my head, again, convinced me that that was a normal thing to do. And it was really a dark period in my life. Obviously, depression is a dark period in anybody's life, I would say. It's not a case of like just pulling yourself together and then going back out there and getting on with your life. It's literally a chemical imbalance in your brain that makes it really difficult for you to feel happy and present, sort of. You just feel like the lowest of low, and you don't want to feel that way. You're saying to yourself over and over again, this is not how I want to feel. Just pick yourself up, you'll be fine. And it just doesn't happen because your brain just doesn't cooperate with what you really want. With psychotic depression, when you are spiraling into depression, when you're having like a down kind of time, a down period, then you tend to hear and see things and feel things and get wrapped up in like hallucinations and delusions and all these kind of things. I've had tons of delusions over the years. The big one was that I was convinced that I was the person that had to get rid of these demons that I was seeing. I would see them everywhere. I'd be out walking my dog and I'd see these demons like walking along the streets and stuff, and I became convinced that the reason I could see them was because it was up to me to rid the world of them. Which all sounds completely ridiculous when I say it now, but at the time I was adamant that that's what I had to do, that was my responsibility, and I was putting like this weight on my shoulders and convincing myself that only I could do this. And obviously the things I was seeing weren't even real in the first place, let alone there for me to get rid of. But I am now on medication. I take Quetiapine and Fluoxetine. The Quetiapine is a mood stabiliser, Fluoxetine is an antidepressant. I have been taking them daily for 2-3 years, maybe. I've been taking the Fluoxetine for longer than that. I got put on the Quetiapine once they finally diagnosed me with psychotic depression, but as I said, I was originally diagnosed with just depression. And I have wound up in the hospital. There have been times when I have been so low that I tried to end my life, or that the voices in my head have like convinced me that that's the right thing to do. And it's not something that I'm proud of, to say that like I let these voices like take over my own control of my body. But it's also not something that I'm ashamed of, because it literally wasn't like I was sitting there going, yeah, whatever, I'll just let them do. I was trying to fight it every single day, and I didn't have the strength to fight it. It was just overpowering me. And I thought long and hard actually about doing this video. I have been thinking about this video for a while, and when I found out that it was Mental Health Awareness Month, I was looking on Twitter and Tumblr and stuff for people with psychotic depression, and I saw very, very little about it, and I was like, why is nobody talking about this? Because I'm not the only person in the world with psychotic depression, obviously. Sorry. And there is just hardly anybody talking about it, and I thought, you know what, I've experienced it. I can't sit here and complain that other people aren't talking about it if I'm not willing to talk about it, so I am now talking about it. I have, like I said, been on medication for a while now. I do still occasionally hear and see things, but because I'm on the medication, I feel like I can control it now. I can differ. I can be like, that's reality, that's not. And I can see that like what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing isn't real, and I can stop it from influencing me. And I don't know if it's always going to be there. The doctors do want me to remain on my medication as it is, the level that I'm taking, for another 3 years. I say doctors, my psychiatrist wants me to stay on it for another 3 years. And I don't go to the psychiatrist regularly anymore. I visit them once a year, but if there's a problem, then I call them up and I get an appointment and I will go and see. I haven't had too many problems, thankfully. There has been issues. Recently things have been a bit tricky for me. As you guys know, I took a break from filming. There's been a couple of issues going on with family and stuff, and I just felt like I needed to like distance myself and take the time to take it all in and to focus on myself so that I didn't wind up spiraling downwards and going on like another breakdown, basically. I have come off my medication in the past. Like, this was before I was diagnosed with psychotic depression. I came off my antidepressants and I was all, I feel fine and whatnot. Total lie. And then I was working in a care home and things got really, really, really difficult. It's a hard environment to work in a care home because you are basically with these people during the last stage of their life. They're going to probably be in this care home until they pass away, and you become very, very close to the people, and it's just very, very difficult. And I just wasn't cut out for it. I had enough strength to begin with. I convinced myself that I could do it, and I did it for like 8 months, and then I just broke down. Like, I know I keep saying breakdown and broke down and whatnot, but literally there's no other way to describe it. I just had a massive breakdown. I had a panic attack at work that was like my first panic attack in like a year at the time, and I was like really, really, really panicking. And I couldn't keep it together, and then I was sick. So I had to go home, and it was just a complete disaster. And after that I realised I can't be focusing on being in a work environment at the moment. So I took some time. My husband was great about it. I took some time. I did go on job seekers here in the UK. I was actively looking for another job, but it was a while before I found anything. I eventually found a job with Virgin Active, and then I had a bit of an issue there with one of the other employers. I will not get into that, but it was basically a harassment issue, and I did go to my bosses about it and talk to them about it, and it just was not dealt with at all in the way that I was comfortable with, so I left there as well. After that I worked in a hotel. That was great until I was married, and then we were moving up to Edinburgh, and the stress of travelling to my work all the time because it was down near where my mum stayed, and it was just not ideal. So basically, without putting myself down a lot, I feel like I am quite tender, like, what's the word, quite delicate in some ways. Like, I know that certain things can trigger me, and I can go spiraling down into like deep depression and deep hallucination and delusions and psychosis, because it's happened to me before, I've dealt with it before, and as such I do become quite like concerned about certain things. Like at the moment, the thought of going and working in a job like every day terrifies me because of the experiences I've had in the past, and I don't want to feel like, I feel like I'm worried that those experiences will repeat themselves, and they won't necessarily repeat themselves, but I'm just scared that my mind and my like emotional state can't handle that kind of stuff at the moment. And obviously I was in college and I wound up leaving because my mental state went really badly. This was the end of, not last year, the year before, I think. Yeah, end of 2014 kind of time. Was that 2014? 2014, yeah. End of 2014 kind of time, I just lost it. I don't actually really know why I wound up losing it. There's times when you don't. I think when you have depression or you have mental health issues, there are times when you just hit a low and you don't really know what's brought it on. And to be fair, nothing needs to bring it on, because like I said, it is the chemical imbalance in your brain. It can just strike at any time and you're not prepared for it, and it just happens and you sort of lose control and you can't make yourself feel better no matter how much you try. And that sort of happened to me over my time in college. Everything was going kind of well, and then boom, I just hit this roadblock and I just was out of control. I couldn't focus on anything. And at that time I was living with my mother-in-law and my husband and my brother-in-law, and I would literally lock myself in the bathroom. This is like, they had 2 bathrooms, but this was the only bathroom with the shower. And I would lock myself in there and I would sit in the shower, like on the bottom, just sit on the floor in the shower and just like cry for hours. I mean, not hours, but for quite a while. And I would like, I feel like when I'm feeling really weak and emotionally drained, I can't fight the psychosis, I can't fight the delusions and the hallucinations, and I will try, but eventually I will just give in and listen to what these voices are telling me and listen to what is in my head and not really there, because I just don't have the strength to be like, no, this isn't real, that's reality, that's just your psychotic depression. And it kind of overwhelms me, and it's very, very scary. And at that time that did happen, I pretty much lost my grip on reality. I was in the hospital, I was in and out of the doctors like non-stop. I had to get in touch with my psychiatrist, go back to see my psychiatrist, explain that there was a problem. They put my medication up, which for now seems to have helped. But there was just no way I could be in. I would literally be sitting in college and my teacher would be up the front talking, my lecturer would be just taking the class basically, and I would be focused on things behind, like demons and monsters and stuff behind her that just wasn't there. My delusions can also run a lot lower than that. They aren't all necessarily like I can see ghosts, I can hear demons, I can communicate. There's been times where I've thought that I had like magic powers. There was like a pretty long period of my life that I convinced myself that I was psychic purely because I had a dream that Michael Jackson died, and a week later Michael Jackson died. Like in my dream it was like some crazy big car crash thing that happened. I was there with Michael Jackson. So it was just like a really weird coincidence, but my mind didn't take it as a coincidence and convinced myself that I could see the future. And what else? There has been a lot of other things that I've had like mild delusions about. I convinced myself when I was younger, this was when I was a lot younger, that I could talk to animals, and it wasn't even you know, little thing that kids do when they're like, oh, I can speak with animals, and when I go for a bath, this mermaid comes to see me. And nothing like that. It was literally that I would spend hours talking to my dog and I would hear voices back, and I would like be having these conversations with my dog, well, dogs, that weren't real but to me were real. Especially as a child when I hadn't even heard of depression, let alone psychotic depression. I convinced myself at one point that I wanted to be male. And this one was very difficult to talk to people about because obviously transgender people or gender fluid people, you know whatever you identify as in your sexuality, in your gender, is a very hard subject because a lot of people are like bullied and they are even like killed and stuff because they're transgender or they're not sure about their gender or they're kind of a mix of both genders, etc. So when I was feeling like this, it felt very real, and then everything kind of mellowed out and I was like, I don't know where that came from. I don't want to be a guy. I'm quite happy being female. I'm comfortable as I am. And by this point I'd already put it out there. I'd already been like, I want to be male, and then my husband was like pretty easygoing about it because, well, he wasn't like, oh, you want to be male? Cool, that's fine, right, I'll go along with that. No, he was pretty much just letting me ramble on about it because he knew that it was just my psychosis taking over, and he knew that it would mellow out and I would be, I don't want to say normal, but I would be myself again, basically. But trying to explain this to people is difficult once you put it out there. Like once I said, oh, I want to be male, and then they're all like, oh, we support you in that, and then trying to say to them, yeah, my mind kind of made that up. It does sound really, really insensitive towards transgender people, and I do feel really, really bad about it. Like, I was always going to feel bad about that. That's not something that I like to do. And obviously I get the same question a lot. People will be like, do you think that your bisexuality is because you have psychotic depression? Do you think it's part of your psychosis? No, my bisexuality has never been part of my psychosis. I have pretty much known that I've been into both girls and boys since I was about 13 or 14 years old. I had a massive crush on this girl in school who was actually one of the most horrible people I've ever met, but I just had this huge crush on her for some reason. And I had quite a few other crushes after her as well. And yeah, I've just always known that I've been into guys and girls, and it's something that hasn't gone away when my depression has been kind of, I won't say dormant, but when it has been under control, I've still been attracted to both genders. So I do know like the kind of oppression these people go through. not huge, I'm not like hugely out, I don't go up to everyone and be like, I'm bisexual, but my friends know, people that matter know, and they don't have an issue with it, and I've never faced any kind of prejudice or anything like that for it. But I did get a lot of backlash after I admitted that the whole wanting to be male thing wasn't real, that it was like some crazy delusion, and it was really, really, really hard to explain. I mean, you say you've got psychotic depression, people just think it's depression, like, it's got depression in there, it's just depression. Whereas if you go out and say you have schizophrenia, and a lot of the symptoms of psychotic depression and schizophrenia are very similar, people get it. They automatically realise that you could have some kind of split personality, you can have insane delusions, you could, you know, do stuff that is just completely out with your control. You could become a person that you're not purely because you can't get control of your mind to make it clear to yourself that that's not who you are. And people seem to understand that a lot better compared to psychotic depression. If I had like said, yeah, I want to be male, and then a few months later said, oh, I really am apologise about this, like I did say that I apologise about that, I have schizophrenia, then I think a lot more people would have been like, oh, right, okay, well, she doesn't have the mental control to, you know, filter that, to be like, that's not something you talk about, that's not something you say just for the sake of saying it because, you know, she's schizophrenic, she really believes it. But it is like that with pretty much any type of psychosis. If you have some kind of psychosis, then you are bound at some point, unfortunately, to do or say things that piss other people off or that seem insensitive, and you don't intend it. You, like, there's a tiny little voice in my mind most of the time being like, don't do that, just don't do that, Mary. But my psychosis overpowers it, and it's like, no, you're just being negative, you can just go away, and I'm going to take the reins right now, and I'm going to say what I want to say, and later on when you get control of yourself, you're going to feel like a complete idiot for ever saying these things. It's just a very, very difficult illness to explain, and obviously I don't ever want to offend anybody. Fortunately for me, apart from the whole male thing, most of my psychosis has been things that I've only shared with close friends, and they understand that it was psychosis, or I've shared with family and they get it. It's not an actual thing, it's me having delusions, and they sort of just go along with it, and then know that in a while I will return to myself, and that'll just be an incident that happened because of my psychosis. It also makes it really difficult though with anxiety. I do have anxiety. I get really paranoid about leaving the house sometimes. I get like such insane paranoia to this point that, like, I was convinced people could read my mind. I would be walking down the street and people would be walking past me, and I'd be like, don't think anything inappropriate, don't think anything bad, just keep walking and don't think about anything that anybody could take in the wrong way, because they might be able to read what I'm saying, they might be able to hear what's going on in my mind. And I became very, very, very paranoid about that. There's still times where something grips me and I'm like, oh my god, and I'll be sitting on a bus and I'll be like, people know what I'm thinking, just think about anything normal, think about something normal. And I like literally force myself to think about something random, like going shopping or something, just to stop anybody from possibly reading my mind. And then I also have these kind of paranoias where I think people are working against me. I was convinced for a while that the people in the care home I worked in were plotting to get rid of me. And I don't mean get rid of me as in like fire me, I mean get rid of me, like end my life, get rid of me. And that was really scary because I would go in every day and I'd be talking to people and they'd all be really friendly to me, and in my head I was going, this is just a cover-up. They want you gone, Mary. They want rid of you completely. The minute you're not there, they're going to be talking to each other and be like, this is what we have to do. We have to organise this and we have to get rid of her. And it was just so real to me that I was just terrified every day going into work. And it's things like that. It's a lot of things like that. Psychotic depression is really sort of a mix of paranoia and anxiety and depression and psychosis and delusions and hallucinations, and therefore I can understand why not many people have spoken out about it, because there are things that I look at and I think, oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. Why did I ever tell anybody that? Or why did I ever even think that? But I think in the last few months or so, since I started YouTube basically, I've been coming more and more to terms with the fact that I'm deaf, and I think I have also been slowly building up my esteem about my mental health and slowly making myself feel more confident about talking about it. And that is why I wanted to talk about it today. I just wanted to share it with you guys, and I wanted you guys to know that if I ever do say something completely crazy on social media or something, and then a few months later I'm like, or a few days later or weeks or hours or whatever, I'm like, yeah, that's not true, nah. Then it's not because I'm just being attention seeking or I'm trying to create drama or anything like that. It literally is because at the time my mind tells me that is the truth, and I have no way to filter it out, and it takes a while before I can look at it and be like, no, that was just a psychosis. So this video is probably really, really long, but I feel like I kind of needed to get it all out and explain it all to you guys. Obviously my medication is helping a lot. I am feeling a lot better, but there are times where I have kind of dark weeks and dark days, and I maybe don't put a video out or something like that, and it's because I'm just trying to get control of myself again before I start filming videos and putting up on YouTube, where I could be saying things that I know not to be real and I know are just part of my delusions. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it didn't depress you too much. I don't mean depressed as in depression, but obviously it's not an uplifting conversation. I have depression and psychosis along with it, but it is something that I think everyone with mental health illnesses should do. I'm not saying get in front of a camera and talk to the camera and tell everybody about it, but whether you keep a diary or whether you vlog or blog about it or whatever, I feel like it's something that helps a lot, just getting it out there and explaining to somebody. Like I said, it could just be in a diary, you could just be writing it down for your own sake, but it does help. And so that is this video, and let me know if any of you guys have any kind of mental health issues that maybe affect your daily life, and we can discuss it and maybe draw strength from one another, and that would just be really, really nice. And I will see you guys in next week's video. Thank you for watching. Bye.